Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very senior professional, someone who spent a lot of time in the social sector, Payal Nath from Bangalore, India. Payal, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be talking to you. We're excited.
Thank you. Payal is the co-founder of Kadam and Kadam Haat, also called Basketry Barn, creating and supporting rural enterprises while building Samarth Bharat. Payal has been recognized and felicitated several times. So Payal, before we start talking about Kadam, tell me a little bit about your own journey and what took you into the social sector.
That's a long story, but to cut it short, I'll try to make it as short as possible. So I studied physics at Delhi University. And after that, studying computers and shoe design. So my career started in shoe design with an Italian designer, apprenticing under him, and working and making shoes, designing for exporting for various countries. So from that, working on 0.5 millimeter, also precision, learning all of those, working in an organized online production center and the designing skills, and taking it to the unorganized sector was a challenge, an exciting challenge to take on, which came with the Export Promotion Council of Handicrafts and Development Commission Handicrafts Office asking me to be a consultant. When we started working on that, I realized that there were a lot of policies and square boxes under which you had to work. So that gave rise to Kadam as an NGO, where I thought with whatever little bit of experience and knowledge, if we could create something different. And that's how Kadam.
Wow. Yeah. I could never have imagined that Kadam could have had its origins in the minds of a shoe designer, which is how probably Kadam came, is it? The step.
That's right.
Wow. Fantastic. That's right. Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about Kadam and Kadam Haat, and why do you have two separate organizations?
Surely. Yeah. Thanks, Ashutosh. So Kadam is the NGO, which is a not-for-profit. And here we create rural enterprises. Now, in creating a rural enterprise, you're required to create an entire ecosystem in the area where there is poverty. And which also means not just trainings and upskilling the communities, but also creating an entire, like I said, an ecosystem, of logistic partners and infrastructure, and a lot of it. So if it was a for-profit body, it could not have sort of the kind of investments in the return on investment. It wouldn't justify. It was social work because you're developing something out of which nothing exists.
Correct.
Except for whatever exists. Yeah, currently in that area. Yeah. So that was the reason for the not-for-profit when we started. And now to be able to create a sustainable income or, for whatever we have done, we needed a marketing partner. So initially in Kadam, we started to make tie-ups with various profit-making, marketplaces, companies, big companies, consumer good companies. So the orders, there was a big disconnect between the artisan communities who were thinking differently, producing differently. Time was different compared to, and the language was different compared to these for-profit bodies, consumer marketing, bodies. So to fill in this gap, we thought we needed somebody which will be a for-profit, a sustainable body, which will not depend on funds or grants, which will sell on its own, ensure there's a working capital for this. When we started this whole Kadam Haat, as the interface, the idea was for the communities to have a kind of a sponge, and for these who understand professional setups to understand as well, and without really making profits as the core, but to be sustainable, basically.
Correct.
On its own. So that was the objective behind Kadam Haat.
Amazing.
Post-COVID, things changed a little bit though.
And is Kadam still confined to shoes, or are you doing all kinds of handicrafts?
No, in fact, it's interesting. When I moved to the handicrafts, like I mentioned, I mean, crafts is what shoe was just a small product, right?
Okay, okay.
And then it moved to bags, and then it moved to crafts, a much larger gamut. And
Hmm.
then when we call it a basketry barn, we're basically making all kinds of grasses as the raw material for us.
Hmm.
And we say, bring it on. Give us the community which you feel is unskilled or below poverty. Give us the area, the geography. We
Hmm.
will study what raw material grows there.
Hmm.
We will do a research of what sells, and
Hmm.
then we'll connect the two and create a new product line. So shoes is not the line currently we are selling, but the
Amazing.
journey was basically more organic.
Okay, fantastic. And I've spoken to many people who are doing such amazing work supporting artisans and handicrafts. Tell me, in your opinion, what has really prevented our artisans from getting the true value of their work?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's a very tough one to answer, I feel.
Okay.
It's many stakeholders who are involved and their
Mm,
understanding of what is required on ground
mm,
and what is required at the front end. So the gap in, the disconnects are multiple.
mm,
So like I said earlier, Kadam Haat is a body. So we need more and more young such bodies to come in between as an interface who
mm,
will take care of them with a lot of heart
mm,
and heart for them, head for them,
mm,
head for the buyers and the heart for the communities.
mm,
Um, there are most of these people that we work with, they are off-farm
mm.
workers. So then for them, what we call the creative manufacturing industry.
Correct. Correct.
So to make a product perfectly without any machines,
Mm,
which the market will understand or the bulk market will understand, is not that easy for these communities to create. Is when we talk about a large bulk orders to create
mm,
sustainable incomes.
mm,
As far as if you look at the creative aspect, which means that beautiful handmade completely, not the mass, not
mm,
big productions, but smaller boutique products. Now the prices become very high for the artisans to make, to sell, and then there
mm,
are channel costs that are involved. So
mm,
by the time it reaches a consumer, he may or may not understand that a handmade basket, why is it costing 3,000 rupees? The artisan
mm.
is probably earning just about 1,500 or
Correct.
yeah, and it's taken 1 month to make him that.
Mm,
So the understanding of the market of handmade, because there are so many other products which are available at
mm,
an affordable price,
mm,
that the gap of understanding of what the processes are is one big gap as well, I feel.
mm. Very interesting. The other question that I have, when I've asked this for many people, what goes into building a strong handicraft brand? Because you are dependent on a supply chain which is coming out of multiple locations. There could be non-standard products coming out. So what has gone into building Kadam and Kadam Haat as brands?
Yeah. Okay. So here, I think we all speak different languages. There are communities we are working with Kashmir, Orissa, Bihar, Bengal, UP, and now the dialect is different, the language is different.
Mm,
The only common language that we use to communicate, to enter it, so them to allow us to enter into their lives and make changes, is the language of love and
correct.
trust.
Mm,
So that is what I think our team is, they are like warriors. They are like
mm,
these army commanders, like they will come in and win the hearts of the communities. And we are all one. We never say that we are an NGO, we come to help you. We haven't come to
mm,
help you. We've come to work together to support
mm,
each other.
correct.
And I think the whole trust and the whole, it's interesting you say that because I was invited last year at Parsons Design School
Mhm,
because they chose two organizations and they were quite baffled. How can a business run on trust?
mm,
Especially in a fragmented, supply chain.
mm,
So yes, they asked Jaipuraks to come and they asked Kadam to come in and speak. So
mm,
it does baffle the logic-driven businesses, but it is true, and that is what has worked for us to identify the strengths that these communities have and the
mm,
weaknesses, identify the strengths we have, and then combine and find a solution so that the end consumer can have and we can have a market for them.
mm. Fascinating. So, again, my next question is that given the amount of work you're doing with so many different individuals, what are some of the key areas where you have impacted the life of a lot of these artisans? And do give me one or two examples.
Surely. Yeah. So yeah, this is very close to me. I can talk for hours if you allow me on this. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, starting with, let's say, one person I will speak about who came first to us. He was fresh young boy, just married,
Mm,
and Mohan from a village in West Bengal.
mm,
And he, the traditional form of bamboo, whatever he was making, some kind of boxes, barely, could run. And then he was not educated. He was
mm,
just standard and drop out from school. So anything that you told him was habina, which means
mm.
anything that you want to do, it's not possible. Oh, it's not possible to do it. The kind of mindset which was different.
Mm,
And taka lag de. Anything is
mm,
like, give me money first.
mm,
And how that transformed in these 10 years with the constant engagement, interaction, and setting up, giving him power, solar plant, electricity, giving him some machines and basic machines, which basically we work, Kadam works with not just green materials, green
mm,
grasses growing in a local area, but
mm,
we also work with the green technology
mm,
wherever machines are required or power is required.
mm,
So explaining everything. And today, from his transition from there to now, wherein he has three sons. The first son says he wants to take over this rural business that his father has set up, and he
amazing.
wants to run it
Mm,
and study MBA and come back to the village and do it.
wow.
B, even more important, he, Mohan, today is a consultant on a Tata project in
Wow.
how to make machines and which are the right kind of machines
Mm,
to make in Malda or install in Malda district, where there are about 100 women that we are training currently.
mm,
So the transition from absolutely nothing and not, and even when he demands a certain machine, he
mm,
never says that you give me a loan. He just says, yeah, he says, give me an advance
mm,
through the orders. I will pay you 100%, and he does it every time. So
mm,
the mindset wiring changing. I think this
mm,
is this is a very big achievement. We feel it acts a ripple effect in the community, not just in his home, but
mm,
so many communities around him. So there
mm,
are multiple examples like these. We
mm,
have one lady who was not working at all, dependent on her husband.
mm,
Not only is she earning about minimum 20,000 a month
mm,
with her entire community, but
mm.
she's also the pradhan of a village. Which means
Wow.
the social changes that happen. Economic is, of course.
Mm,
Um, Another one small example I want to give you. When you work in the rural areas, there is this huge caste barriers. So when you go for trainings, one will not sit with the other, will not sit with the other.
mm,
There's a huge gender bias also.
mm,
So when we design a product which is going to be sold by Kadam Haat, the trainings are happening based on the social framework to break
mm,
those barriers. One basket which will be made, which will have an iron frame, will be made by one community which is into welding. And he does not have a work right now because agricultural instruments are not being handmade anymore. So
mm,
he doesn't have work. So he doesn't have to migrate to do another work. He will be a part of the project. The
mm,
ladies who are lower community and higher community both will be weaving the basket. The handles will be made by a much higher community, carpenter community. All of them will be part of one team making one product
mm.
and paid equally.
Wow.
And slowly over a period of time, oh, this is my well, you cannot drink water. All
Mm,
that
mm.
vanishes once a level comes up in terms of livelihood, in terms of incomes that start
Amazing.
coming in.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing. When you're telling me these stories, I just wonder that how much social sector organizations like yourselves can actually change our country. Thank you for all you're doing. But moving on, Payal, there is also, I mean, I've been speaking to several people, and they say that elders in in our societies, in our communities, in villages, also play a very significant role in either supporting or not supporting women. Is that something you have also experienced?
absolutely. We've seen, if I use the Hindi word, they will be saying, you have gone for the training, sitting under the trees and training, the ladies, you come home, तुम्हारा गोश्त बना के खाएंगे आज.
Oh.
Very strong statements.
Mm,
But also, and that is the reason you see the trust when we say, when we speak. So it is building. We don't want to invade into their ways of living. We want to live in harmony. All that we are saying is that 3 to 4 hours when the ladies are free in the afternoon after they've done their work, they can maybe earn a little bit more money for the family, for everybody together. And then they need the support. And if our starting point is that, and we build when we enter into a cluster, we have a method of building a social map, building an aspirations map, building so we have multiple like raw material mapping and skill mapping. But where there's technical, where there's as much emphasis laid on the human side of it and the relationship side of it. And post that, we build a program, what we'll be doing here in this village based on that. So that's why Kadam as the NGO is, it's like the parent. It's like a parent for, it's before it gives birth to a child.
Correct.
Products are the children with these communities as the parent, as the co-parents for this product.
Amazing. Let's now talk a little bit about supply chain. Not only are you sourcing finished products from across the whole country, but I'm sure you must have got some kind of a control or a quality control system on the input supplies also. How are you managing this across such a major country when even with the best of technology, supply chain fails?
It's not easy, believe me, in a country like ours, it's absolutely not. So that is why when we sell on Kadam Haat in our brand, all the products that we are selling have undergone trainings through Kadam. Which means that the ecosystem of setting up the supply chain and the trainings and the upskilling, all of that has been taken. We have a method to madness of how we'll do it, right from the starting point of choosing the people with whom we are going to work. What is the product which will be made, which will be launched in Kadam Haat 3 years hence? Now it's refused. It's just 1 year now. So that is put into trainings for this given to the clusters. So it's not really like just picking up sourcing and selling. It is setting up the supply chain first and then selling. So I guess that's the only reason why we've been able to kind of manage this in this sector, especially, but it's still not easy. Believe me, it's not easy.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And my next question is on technology. Are you using over the years more and more technology to be able to manage not just your supply chain and marketing, but also supporting the work a lot of these artisans are doing?
We do use technology. You mean mechanical engineering kind of technologies, if I've understood correctly?
Well, not just mechanical engineering, but I mean, today, of course, there is one of all different kinds of softwares. Second is computers and so on and so forth.
Of course. I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, it's human-centric, but to scale up, we definitely need technology, and we're still learning, and we're still adding more as we learn more. But the whole process of right from doing the market research, or which product we should be, what is the size, how many people that we are going to support by selling of that, what should be the price, all of that comes from technology. The online platform. Integrations happen through technology. And of course, impact assessments also we give mobiles to when we work in the communities, we create craft managers. We don't say, and the craft managers who we create will be given smartphones. And so that is a connect with them and certain data uploaded on them, those smartphones, and they connect our office teams. So of course, it forms the core, right? It helped us, those craft. So like this, many, yes, absolutely. There are even for like the how to say online marketplaces selling whatever, that of course goes without saying. All that is technology. But even at the back end, the REACH certified dyes, which means that the eco-friendly dyes, the research, the grasses that we are going to work on, to do a scientific analysis of that grass before we make a product for selling. They use a lot of technology there. Yes.
Fascinating. I have time for two more questions. What is the role of the local governments, from the panchayat level, in supporting a lot of the work that you're doing?
Huge. And I'm so proud to say that in the last couple of years, last few years, I've seen such a great change and involvement. Right now, in fact, five projects that we are doing. Three of them are state governments with state governments. So right from the state government will initiate the district levels, and the districts where we are working will initiate the block development officers, and the block development officers will initiate with the DIC officers, district in charge, and then these people will not just financially, but the whole point of allowing and facilitating and making sure that it goes smooth with the community. It's very, very important. Without that, it's very, very hard. I mean, you can't work in silos. It has to be the whole ecosystem that has to get together to get the kind of results. So for us, because we have a model of Kadam and Kadam Haat, which are joined by the hip but have different mind spaces, it has worked.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And my last question to Payal, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your amazing journey and all your learnings about building a social sector and building Kadam Haat and building a brand, what would you say are 3 lessons or 3 learnings you would want our viewers and listeners to take away from your own journey?
3 lessons you mentioned. Yeah, I think my father always used to say, do not be a national waste. We have a rent to pay to the planet where we live.
Yeah, absolutely.
The air that we breathe. It's not just about having all the resources and the money to stay at home. We have a comfortable life, and we have access to everything. It's beyond that. So how can you be useful to yourself?
Correct.
First, to your family, to your community, as much as you can increase your capacity. And overall, thinking about the macro levels of the planet, we have to pay a rent to the planet where we live. And how are you doing it? That one big question.
Correct.
Yeah. And you should definitely, for sure. And I think believing in the greater good. And also believing in the value systems that have survived centuries.
Yeah.
To follow those.
Very interesting. And on that note, and your amazing 3 lessons or learnings, I love what your father said, do not be a national waste. I think such a powerful statement that he has learned, and I think I'll remember this. The other one is believe in the greater good, and the next one being remember the value systems that have come down over the ages in our amazing country over the years. And as you were talking about it, I was reminded of the new book that I'm working on, which is Management Lessons from Hindu Scriptures. So, amazing value systems are there all over. Thank you, Payal, for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about Kadam Haat, about all the work that you are doing. Thank you also for sharing with me the story of Mohan. I think it's such an amazing story that you were telling me. And I remember when I went to Calcutta, and I've written about it in my first book with ITC, the first 2 words I heard was Habena and Cholbena. So when you said, he said Habena, it was reminded me of my own first introduction to Calcutta. But thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.